Welcome to My Spoonie Sisters, featuring stories from special guests dedicated to empowering those with chronic illness. Our goal? To connect people and provide the support and tools they need to live a better life. For those with chronic illness, our energy levels just fade faster. We must be more purposeful with the spoons allotted to us. So grab your coffee or tea, sister, and tune in as My Spoonie Sisters share stories of living with chronic illness. Welcome, My Spoonie Sisters. Today, I am excited to introduce Jeff and Catherine Pearson, a couple whose inspiring journey is marked by resilience in the face of, I know I'm going to butcher this word, so I will let him say it for us, but it is hydrocephalus. Is that correct?
So close.
So close.
Wrong emphasis on the syllable there. It's hydrocephalus. You were close.
There we go. I know. It's a condition involving fluid buildup on the brain. Jeff's diagnosis led through numerous surgeries and emotional challenges, but together they have found strength and a commitment to help others. In 2022, they launched their nonprofit, Hydro with Hope, to support families facing hydrocephalus. Wow. They created the journal, My Hydro Warrior Story, and expanded their mission with the TV show Invisible Condition, aiming at raising awareness about various invisible conditions. This year, they introduced Invisible Condition University, which is an online community for those diagnosed with an invisible condition, and their caregivers to find resources, support, and to finally be seen. I'm eager to discuss their story, the obstacles they've overcome, and the impactful work they are doing. So welcome, Jeff and Catherine. How are you today?
Thank you.
Do you mind sharing your journey with hydrocephalus and how the diagnosis affected both of you?
Sure, yes. That journey starts way back in March of 1977 when I was born, because I was diagnosed at my 2-week checkup at 2 weeks old. That was the diagnosis. That was the first time we heard the word hydrocephalus, and that was my first brain surgery, was at 2 weeks old. So starting off with a bang. At that 2-week checkup, they did a CAT scan and discovered that one of the ventricles in my brain was not working. Just a little anatomy lesson. There's your brain is always producing cerebral spinal fluid, which is what cushions your brain against your skull. And the fluid has to go somewhere because it's always being produced every day, all day, every day. And so it normally will exit through what's called ventricles that are in the brain, and it goes down your spinal column, where it kind of lubricates that and then reabsorbs into your body through there. But one of my ventricles was not working properly. It was blocked. And so the fluid couldn't escape as fast as it needed to. And so it was starting to build up. And so when they did some of those same measurements that they do at birth at the 2-week checkup, one of which is a head measurement around the noggin there, they discovered it was a little bit too big, just outside the average. So they did a CAT scan, figured out I needed surgery, and there it was, brain surgery, 2 weeks old. That was the first of 7 that I've had. So yeah, it's been a ride. That was when we found out, and there's a lot more to the story, but that's the beginning of the story.
So obviously, Catherine, you did not know him when he was, But
we met young, but not that young.
But how has this affected you as well?
Right. I did not know him at 2 weeks old. We met when we were in middle school. We were 7th, 8th grade, in that range, and we became friends, dated a little bit off and on through that time frame, and ended up getting married. Just to fast forward the story, ended up getting married at about 22 years old. At that time, I knew that he had a condition called hydrocephalus, but I did not really know what the implications of that were. I didn't know what it meant, really. I was just kind of, that young and in love. So we got married. We had 3 kiddos. Been through, the jobs and the buying in house and all those fun things. It was about 14 years into our marriage when he started having surgeries. And the first one was an emergency abdominal surgery, which for us really kind of came out of the blue. There was very little warning. It was that morning he didn't feel well waking up. That evening, it had gotten so bad that he needed to be taken by ambulance to the nearest hospital. So that was kind of my introduction, was going, oh my gosh,
Surprise!
My husband of 14 years is in the hospital and they're saying that he needs emergency surgery. And so that was kind of a crash course in figuring out who my community was, who was, able to come alongside me and support me, and us really, support our kiddos at that time were much younger. But yeah, so since that time, there's been a few other surgeries along the way. 7? Is that right? 7 in the last 10 years?
6.
6?
6 in the last 10 years. The emergency abdominal, 4 brain surgeries, and then another surgery just a couple of years ago. Yeah.
So the impact has been, first of all, navigating the hospital system, and like I said, finding community, which at first it didn't feel like there was very much, but seeking out that community. And then also finding myself in a bit of a caregiver role as the surgeries led to subsequent physical impacts. For example, after he had brain surgery in 2014, he ended up with about a year of migraines. So that's, what do you do when you see your husband, that has been very strong and capable and doing all the normal things, and is now on the couch for
the whole day, all the time.
Most of the day, not being able to work, not being able to, barely functioning. It was hard. It was a very hard time. That's probably been the hardest impact, is seeing the physical aftermath of surgeries.
Do you both feel like you had the support that you needed, and do you still feel like you have the support you need?
What do you think? I'll let you answer that. You were my support, so you go for it.
Kind of alluded to when he first started having surgeries, that very first emergency surgery, at the time I texted a bunch of friends and I said, Jeff and I are in the hospital. He's having to have emergency surgery. A lot of them, the response was, oh, we'll pray for you, which
let me know what we can do.
Is great. And that's, I welcome prayer. But there was 2 friends in particular. One said, I will be there. I'll be right there. Which hospital are you in? I'm coming. The other friend said,
you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What can I bring you? What do you need?
Where are you and what can I bring you?
Yeah. That was practical. That really practical help was really what I needed at that time. And I was actually kind of surprised at how little support there was from my friends at the time. To be fair, they had no clue either. They didn't know what to do. But, maybe if anyone listening ever hears from a friend, hey, I'm in the hospital with a loved one, see if you can go to them. If they're out of town, out of state, understand. But if you're in the same town as them, try and go and sit with them. Go and sit with them in the waiting room, because that's the most uncertain, scariest, unsettling, unnerving time that I think I ever had in my life, was sitting in a hospital waiting room while he's having surgery.
And what made it more so is because I had some surgeries done as a kid. The first one was at 2 weeks old. Then I had one at brain surgery at 6 months old, another one at 18, but really from birth to about 36 years old, that one in 2013 you were talking about, for those first 36 years, I had some surgeries, but everything went well. Everything was smooth. Everything was like, okay, surgery, pick up where you left off and go. And so this was the first time for me too, that was like, you're out for a few days, whatever, you're back on your feet. These 10 or 11 years were not like that. That was new to me. The difference is I was asleep the whole time. She was the one pacing the hallway with the friend going, what's going to happen? I had no idea, because I was out for the surgery. So it was a little easier for me till I woke up and said, okay, are we good or not? Yeah. But yeah, so it's a thing though.
Yeah. So I feel like since that time we have grown more community, more,
yes,
in fact, online community, reaching, communicating with people,
all over this.
on Facebook, in Facebook groups, and, trying to think of some other, I guess that's the main one. Just really finding that support, through other avenues than just my friends who didn't really understand what was going on.
I think the tough thing is you don't know until you know. And you
Right.
never want someone to be in the position that you are in and to experience it. But at the same time, you want their support and their compassion. You want more than just, I'll pray for you. And I guess I look at anyone that knows me well and cares about me, they're going to drop everything. And those are the people I want in my corner. And so even if you don't understand, just imagine what it is like to be in a hospital room and have somebody that you're worrying about. Who do you want with you? So listeners, people watching, that's what we want you to know, is be the person that you would need. It's just that simple.
Yep.
Agreed.
Exactly.
Yes.
Catherine, how do you feel like you cope with being the patient caregiver dynamic during these challenging times?
I think I've gotten better, smarter. I think, like I said, starting out, it was a little uncertain. I wasn't sure what to do. And I'll be honest, I wasn't sure what to feel, and so I felt like my emotions went kind of numb. I didn't was I supposed to be afraid? Was I supposed to be sad? Was I supposed to be angry? I didn't know what to do with that emotional dynamic. But as things have gone on, I feel like I've learned to be more compassionate towards Jeff as a caregiver. He's, sometimes his body does things that he doesn't understand, and that's not his fault. It's just, kind of that cliche, it is what it is.
There it is. Now what do we do with it?
Yeah. Exactly. So then it becomes, okay, this is what's happening to him. This is what his body is experiencing. So how do I care for him during that time? What is my response? Is there anything I can do to be proactive? Help him to maybe prevent some of the physical, not ailment,
Side effects, maybe?
Side effects, thank you.
Post-surgery fun. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I really have, thought about, can I get him to eat? I know it sounds silly, maybe. He's the type of person that likes to go and go and go and forgets to take care of his body. He forgets to eat. He forgets to drink. He forgets to rest. That's where, as caregiver, that's where I become proactive in, okay, Jeff, I can see from the outside that your body is starting to feel the stress of not eating, not drinking, not resting. I really want you to rest right now. So giving him that permission, right?
Yes. I used to feel so good. Even before all this craziness of all these surgeries, I would feel guilty for taking a nap. I would feel so bad. I would wake up from my nap and go, even if it was accidental, lay down on the couch and you're gone. And an hour later or whatever, you wake up and I was like, oh my God, what did I miss? What did we do? I'm so sorry. She said, why are you sorry? Your body needed it. It's cool. So I'm over that part. But, you've been very good and very gracious. And yes, being able to rest and be able to take care of myself and not feel like I should be doing something else.
I think as a patient, we often feel that. We feel the guilt of what we should be doing around the house or with the children or whatever. But it sounds to me like you have a huge support system in your corner and that Catherine is looking at you saying, hey, I just want you to feel better. Do what you need to do for your body. It's not like you're just sitting around being lazy.
No,
Totally.
Exactly. It's not laziness. It's maintaining your physical and mental well-being is what it is. It has nothing to do with being lazy. Lazy is different. You can be working and still be lazy.
Hi, it's Jen here. Welcome back and thank you for joining us again. I want to give a special shout out to everyone who recently signed up with Rare Patient Voice. Your support means the world to me. If you haven't yet, this is another great way to back the podcast by signing up through our referral link. Rare Patient Voice is an incredible resource for people living with both the rare and non-rare diseases. It's a welcoming platform that offers a safe space to connect, share experiences, find support, and access valuable information. What we love most is how it shines a light on the rare and non-rare diseases while embracing all of the diagnoses. Rare Patient Voice connects patients and caregivers with opportunities to share their opinion in research studies. Whether it's surveys, phone interviews, focus groups, or clinical trials, your input matters. And you can earn an average of $120 an hour for your time. We're here to support you every step of the way, no matter what condition. So please go check out Rare Patient Voice through our referral link. Definitely.
we've done lazy. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, lazy is fun.
Sometimes, you watch TV with ice cream and you enjoy it.
Yes.
We all deserve a little bit of that once in a while,
sure.
Right. But it's different when it's like my functioning is decreasing. And so I really need to do this, whether it's rest or allow yourself time to eat and drink and all the things in order to be able to function well.
And from the patient perspective, I don't like that word, but it serves the purpose. I would say anybody out there that's hearing this, seeing this, be aware, be sensitive to what you need, and be like, I kind of jokingly tell people, those of us with hydrocephalus are headache connoisseurs, right? So we know what I just didn't eat enough, I didn't sleep enough, drink enough, I slept weird, and now I pulled a muscle kind of headache is, and I know the difference between those and maybe we should go to the ER. This sounds serious. This feels like it might be different. We might want to check this out. And you got to be able to feel that. If you're not paying attention to yourself and your body and how you feel and because only you know you better than anybody. So if you're not paying it, you got to pay attention, and you've got to respond when you feel something. That's the important part. And so I feel like that surgery in 2013 and the one in 2002, we had to have two brain surgeries within 24 hours in 2014. Those two came really close. I think those were the two that came closest to killing me because I wasn't paying attention until I had to. And so you learn, hopefully. I've learned, right? I've learned a little better.
Do either of you feel like there are signs when this is happening, when it's time to get in there and get this looked at? And what kind of symptoms and signs would you see?
What signs do you see? I know what I know when it's time, but what do you see from the outside?
From the outside, I go along with the mentality of he's fine until he tells me that he's not. And if I see something, I will try to, treat it or respond to it with the least invasive measures as possible to start with.
Yep.
Right. So if I see that he's not feeling well, I'm like, do you need to rest? Do you, let's rest. Let's treat what I'm going to say are kind of the low hanging fruit of, taking care of yourself. And then if it goes beyond that, that's when red flags start to come up. And I'll give you an example. In 2021, he was experiencing headaches, but he was still working. And so one particular day he went to work with a headache.
In the morning.
With a headache, but the headache got continually worse. If I remember correctly, I think I brought you some
Advil or Tylenol or something about halfway through the morning.
Over-the-counter pain meds partway through the day.
Mm-hmm.
Took those up too. Fortunately, at the time, his job was just a few-minute drive from us, so that was handy. So I ran up there, gave him some pain meds, came back home, but that didn't do anything.
So 2 or 3 hours later.
He's
when it should have kicked in and worked if it was going to work, right?
He's like, I still feel terrible. My head is worse, is pounding. So he came home from work early and crashed on our bed. And so, again, trying over-the-counter pain meds, like rest, a nap, let's see if that helps things to feel better. He woke up even worse, feeling even worse. And now, not only headache, but apparently he described his neck
and shoulders
just being so stiff, and he couldn't hardly move. So that's when red flags, right? Like, this is major problem.
Well, and the other thing is, keep in mind for somebody that's, and maybe some of you out there that are listening and watching can relate to this. Anybody that's had surgeries their whole life or had a chronic condition that's caused them pain, your pain tolerance is through the roof, which is why those first two surgeries almost killed me before we got them done, because the pain tolerance was so high. And so same thing here. I was feeling this, but I was like, it's really bad. And so when it's really bad for somebody that has a really high pain tolerance, that's a clue for the rest of you that if they say it's really bad, jump on it, take action. Because if it's bad for them, like for me, a 2 or 3 is like an 8 for everybody else. So it's a big deal.
A lot of you probably know when you go to the hospital, they'll say, rate your pain on a scale of 0 to 10. like 2 thumbs up. No,
like we're rating a movie or something. Yeah. Well, how do you rate your pain? Come on.
Right.
Come on.
So there's kind of that within the medical community, there's that 0 to 10 scale, where they try and encourage people to say, are you a 4, a 7, a 9, a 25? And what we've really found is that for somebody who experiences pain, chronic, at least in our world, that tends to distort that 0 to 10 scale.
Yes.
And so like a 6 or 7 on my scale is probably like a 2 on his scale, and something that's like a 10 on his scale would be like a 20 on my scale. And it's just a variance of, what he has continually experienced throughout his lifetime has changed how he, kind of interprets that 0 to 10.
Yeah.
So back to that story, that one particular day, he woke up feeling like it was probably a 20.
Like for me, I think I said it was like an 8 or 9, which for me, which I never say that. I never say that because I can the pain tolerance is usually pretty high, but that day it was bad.
Because I know that, something that's really bad for him is really bad.
It's time to go.
So that's, so we went to the emergency room and had it checked out. That particular scenario, the way that one played out was they did admit him to the hospital, and they did a lot of tests for all sorts of different things. One of the things that kind of is a little bit in the forefront of my brain sometimes with, head pain is something like, and the word fell out of my head, meningitis, because that's super serious. And it means an infection that's within, the neck, the spine, the head, somewhere in there. And so they checked for that and he was clear. So I was like, okay, great, good. But it did take a whole lot of tests. And in fact, they struggled to figure out what it was until the neurosurgeon says, you know what? We need to do exploratory neurosurgery because we can't see anything else.
That's a fun phrase to hear, isn't it?
Right? Exploratory neurosurgery.
We get to do exploratory neurosurgery.
I think, yeah, anytime you hear that exploratory, it's like, oh, so you have no idea.
So you have no clue what's going on. Yeah. Fantastic.
Right? Yeah. And then, so the end of that story is they did the exploratory surgery. They found out that the piece of tubing that goes into his brain to draw the fluid out was completely blocked, which meant that
the whole thing had to be replaced.
Yeah. So,
so brain surgery again.
That was one of the brain surgeries that was required to save his life. So
well, there you go.
So that was
good times. Nonstop action around here some days.
Definitely good times. They did the exploratory. Did they go ahead and do the brain surgery while they were in there doing the exploratory, or did they finish, come talk to you, and then do it?
They just went ahead and did it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they could see. I'm guessing they took the there's a little tube, and they took it out and probably went back.
Oh, there it is.
Not going to put that back in. Let's put in one that's not completely blocked. And fortunately, it's been 3 years and doing great. So yay.
Take it.
Right?
Well, that's good news. Financial and emotional impacts have you faced, and how do you manage them? I know, that's a tough one, right? That's a big one.
Woo! Well, I'll tell you what. Between the emergency abdominal surgery in 2013 and the 2 brain surgeries back to back within 24 hours and 3 weeks in the hospital in 2014, I distinctly remember getting that pile of bills right about the same time, because there's always a delay, right? They got to figure out how much, they got to make sure they charge you everything they want to charge you. And so they sent me that pile of bills, and I think I figured out it was just over $500,000 between those 3 surgeries. And so thank God we had insurance, and I think we ended up paying about $10,000 or $12,000 overall for all of it, which was still not a small chunk of change, but it beats $500,000. So there has been some impact, definitely some financial impact, which can impact emotionally as well. Because when you're having brain surgery, you're not at work, everybody.
Really? No way.
Both. I know. Shocking. It's really hard to be in 2 places at once. I'm still working on it. If I figure it out, you'll be the second to know. But it's hard to be in 2 places at once. So working is the only way I know to earn money is work. Financial stress is a thing when it comes to surgery like this.
Yeah. And I will say, like he mentioned, probably it was probably 10 to 12 grand that was out of pocket. And for anyone who's listening that might be new to dealing with medical finances, I want to really give the piece of advice to talk to them. Like if you get a bill and you're like, I don't know how to pay for this, I don't know what to do, talk to them. They will most likely, allow for payments. And sometimes there are some hospitals that have, something like a benevolence ministry or a
charity department or something, whatever you call it.
But the really nice thing about medical payments is as long as you talk to them and make some kind of payment, they don't charge you interest. They're not credit cards.
Don't go against your credit because it's medical bills.
Right.
Yep.
But yeah, just communicate with them. Jeff has been really fantastic about doing that. Like, hey,
we're in the midst of talking to him about right now. Actually, we're still dealing with some stuff from that 3 years ago surgery.
Yeah,
so it never ends. It feels like, but talk to him. Really,
yeah,
you're right.
Yeah, and like I said, if you talk to the hospital and ask about a ministry or a service, like, hey, is there any program that might reduce this bill for me? And we have had, portions of bills that have been kind of written off by the hospital really cool. And reduced for us. Yeah, which we're so thankful for.
And part of that is be nice. Please be nice. They're just doing their job too. So the hospital is doing their job and the bill collector is doing their job. And so yelling at them and getting mad and expletives and all the things that you really feel like doing some days, bite your tongue, swallow your pride, and be nice because it will always turn out better that way. I've done it both ways. It doesn't turn out well if you do it the other way. So lesson learned.
To be honest, they're going through the same thing that we are. Just because they work in the medical field does not mean they have it any easier than we do.
Right.
They still have to deal with the bills as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's true.
And it does not hurt to ask the questions and find out about the different programs.
If you don't ask, you'll never get the answer. The answer is always no if you don't ask.
Do you feel like it has caused stress or tension within your marriage, or do you feel like you guys have been really good about working together to deal with everything?
Yes, there's definitely been times that are stressful. One way that I like to answer a question like this is to say that I made one decision about how to support Jeff, and that was the day that we got married. And I made one decision to support him no matter what. Right? In sickness and in health, for better or for worse.
For richer, for poor.
Right? All the ups and downs.
Medical bills or not.
And so despite times of stress, I am absolutely committed to be here and to figure out what is the next best step. And like I said, there's times of stress. And so, there's times where I might throw a tantrum. I've thrown my share of tantrums, like, no, this isn't fair. And, I've thrown pity parties for myself. But I don't stay there, right? For anyone listening, I totally get it. Throw that tantrum if you need to, throw that pity party if you need to, but try not to stay there. Try to feel the emotion and then see, I acknowledge that this sucks and it's not fair, but how can we move forward anyway? Is there something I can do to care for Jeff? Do I need to tell Jeff that I need a little bit of care? Sometimes as caregivers, I need to be able to say, I'm feeling stressed and overwhelmed and I need your support actually in this moment.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways. By allowing it to go both ways, we has strengthened our marriage in the long run. So it is not easy, but it's doable to allow it to strengthen your marriage. How can I be compassionate? How can I be caring? How can he care for me and be compassionate towards me? It's really that back and forth, that give and take of needing and expressing and needing care and giving care.
It's kind of like, I don't know why, but I'm a movie guy. I love movies. I'm a movie junkie, movie connoisseur even. And there's a Mission Impossible movie with that Anthony Hopkins was in, and he was talking about, and Tom Cruise was like, "This is going to be difficult." He's like, "This is Mission Impossible. Difficult should be a walk in the park for you. You signed up for Mission Impossible, so difficult is no problem." So it's kind of like, it's like, okay, it seems impossible, but you've signed up for this, and we both agreed that we're not quitting. And so we can stay in it, or we can figure out what the solution is and move forward.
If I can say just one more thing as well. When we had been married a handful of years, I think it may have even before surgery started, but we did some counseling, some marriage counseling. At the time, it wasn't necessarily because we felt like we needed anything. As it turned out, it's been really served us going through all of the surgeries. And so I would just say as well, if you feel like you're struggling in your marriage and you're struggling to care and you're struggling to be compassionate or ask for the care in return, it's okay to ask for help outside the marriage as well, like from a counselor or a therapist or whatever. So
I feel like that was such a godsend. That was in 2008, by the way. I remember that because my sister would not stop bugging us until we went and talked to this person. I said, "We're good. We don't have any," like, you can always make it stronger. There's always room for improvement, right? I said, "Okay, fine." But I tell you, yeah, I feel like that was a godsend, because if we hadn't had that, I think it would have been worse. If we had not known how to care for each other in a way that we've been able to through all of this, because of that amazing experience and that amazing counselor, I think it would have been a lot rougher. It would have been a lot less simple and a lot harder. So don't be afraid to ask for help. It's okay.
Yep.
Absolutely agree with the two of you. My next question for you is, what inspired you to create Hydro with Hope, and how has it evolved over time?
Man, Hydro with Hope. That one, we were sitting in an exam room in a neurosurgeon's office waiting for him to come in to the follow-up visit from in 2018 from that particular brain surgery from I had one in March of 2018. And so we were in there for another follow-up, and we were just sitting there. Catherine was with me, and we were sitting there, and those exam rooms have paper thin walls, right? They're terrible. And it was kind of quiet, and we could hear, I was listening, and I could hear not the conversation. You couldn't hear the words, but you could hear the tone. You can always hear the tone. And the tone of the conversation was not great. You could tell it was something wrong. It was distraught. The first thing that popped into my head was, God, I wonder if that's a family finding out that their little baby is going to have brain surgery again, or for the first time, or, that's where my brain went, was brain surgery, and they're freaking out and they don't know what to do. And all I wanted to do was run next door to that room and give them a hug and tell them everything's going to be okay and answer their questions. HIPAA doesn't like that. Doctors' offices don't like it when you just burst into rooms like that. So I stayed there, and I said, okay, we got to do something. And that's kind of where Hydro with Hope was conceived there in my brain, was like, what do we do? We've got to be able to help people. So over the next few years, we were like, okay, brick and mortar, online, social media, what do we do? And ended up being online and through social media. And we launched in 2022, published the journal not too long after that. It's been off and running from there.
To go along with that, can you tell us about the idea behind My Hydro Warrior story and its intended impact?
Yeah, so as somebody who had several brain surgeries at that point still already, I don't know, for those of you that don't really know the geography of the brain, the right behind the right ear here, which is where the shunt is on the skull behind the right ear. Well, that's where the short-term memory lives in the brain. So I've had a lot of trauma to that part of the brain. So my memory is not stellar in some areas, and I've compensated a lot, and I've been carrying on with that, despite it. But even still, when we thought, okay, what are we going to do for a resource? I thought, let's write it down. I've been writing stuff down my whole life, So we wanted to make a print journal. It's a fill-in-the-blank journal. It's about 150 pages. There's a lot of targeted prompts on there, like, hey, this is what I'm in the hospital for. This is my neurosurgeon. This is the hospital I'm at. This, and there's little things where you can draw pictures or put print pictures and put it in there. Here's what my hospital room looked like. Here's what my funky surgery hair looked like after I woke up from brain surgery, or here's my gnarly scar I got during surgery, or all the things. It's part of it is supposed to be fun and kind of lighten the mood a little bit and give them something fun to do. Maybe it's a kid, maybe it's an adult, I don't know. But part of it is record keeping. And so there's spots in there. There's a lot of blank pages for emotional download for people that are in there with you. And there's also a lot of pages so that you can write down what people are telling you so that when you go to that next neurosurgeon appointment, you've got a resource in your hand, paper resource, not on your phone where it can crash, not in your memory where it will evaporate inevitably when you go to the appointment. It's on paper and you have it with you. And the idea is to have each one of those for each surgery that you have. And so you say, okay, we're going to a follow-up for this one. There's that book. Take it off the shelf. Take it with you.
Yeah, because part of the other piece of that is if you go to a new care provider, they will say something like, oh, have you ever been hospitalized or had any surgeries? For somebody who's had a lot.
At 18, that was, how many was that at that point? It was about 13 at that point. You have done.
You kind of go, well, how much do you want to know? Because yes and yes, there's
what you're really asking.
Plenty, but and so there's the concept of making sure that you capture everything, like tell them all of the different surgeries, and then to be able to say, well, here I had this and it had this impact and I had this and this impact. And so it's just a really nice way to, like you said, you can take it with you to a doctor's appointment and say, yes, in fact, I have all of it right here.
Here it is.
I think, the great ability that we have now with the way that our phones work is you can actually scan that like a document if they, for some reason, need a page out of your book.
Right. Yep. We did actually have one person, I think, a nurse say, you have it all written down? Great. I'll just take that and I'll bring it back. I'll take it to the nurse's station, write down all the stuff, copy it over.
Yep.
And then bring it back before the end of the appointment.
Which makes it easier for them, too. They don't have to write everything down either. Just make a copy.
I think we need more like this out there for all different conditions. I don't know if we need to make it fill in the blank, but everyone needs something like that.
I've thought about that. We're working on creating something a little shorter and a little more general so that it can be for just, in general. We're working on it, everybody. Don't worry. We'll let you know when it's available.
Maybe we can come back on.
That's right.
What is your vision for the show Invisible Condition and Invisible Condition University?
The original vision for the show has changed. Actually, we've morphed over the last year. We've been on the air since April of 2023. As you know, everything kind of naturally changes over time, and you kind of get your feet under you and figure out what you're really doing. And we launched our show on April 4th, 2023, Invisible Condition. And we launched it with the intent of telling people's stories and saying, look, these people are living and yet thriving. And this is how they're doing it. Check out this amazing person with this incredible story, and telling their story and that's kind of how it started. And then as the time went on, it got to the point that people were like, well, we've got a way to deal with that condition or deal with that pain, or we've figured out a way to get rid of it. We've kind of brought on a lot more people like that in the alternative world that have helped a lot of people with those invisible conditions with a variety of things to help them to either get rid of the symptoms of it or cure it completely. Or it's been really cool to watch that kind of progress in the way it's been progressing. And out of that came Invisible Condition University, which was another need we found that we kind of wish we had 10 years ago, Invisible Condition University. So that is an online community that we formed this year that is designed to give people a voice that, maybe wouldn't have one. I mean, for instance, I'm the patient, Catherine's the caregiver, right? So if you run into an experience at the ER or during surgery or at the hospital or whatever, and you go, what do I do with that? That just scared the crap out of me. Who do I talk to? Come to Invisible Condition University. It's a safe place to do all of that. Question things, vent frustration, scream, yell, whatever. And then between the last 10 years of our personal journey, trying things, some of them worked, some of them didn't, lots of things. Plus the last year and a half of guests on the show, we have a huge list of resources that we want to share. That's the main reason we did it, is to share all these resources so that you that are dealing with that and struggling don't have to reinvent the wheel, and you don't have to do it by yourself. Let us help you. That's the idea behind that.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
How do you
We thought so.
Well, I surely hope you do. Oh, wow. What has been the most rewarding part of your journey so far?
You want to answer that, or do you want me to? I'm guessing she's asking both of us, but
sure.
Yeah.
What? If
you want me to?
Why
don't I go? Okay. So I think my favorite part has been watching that progression of the show and start. Well, part of it selfishly, it's like, hey, we started a TV show and we kept it going and it's thriving and it's growing and it's doing well and people are enjoying it and people are watching it and the audience is growing. And that has probably been my favorite thing because I've never done anything like that before. I mean, we got approached to do this TV show out of nowhere at a conference that we were promoting the nonprofit at. And I'm like, TV show? What? Are you crazy? Nobody thinks they have a story because it's their story. It feels normal to them. But when you tell somebody I've had 7 brain surgeries, that's not normal. People want to hear the story. That's kind of my favorite part is the watching how that's grown and all the amazing people we've got to meet, including you, by the way, who is going to, watch out for, we're going to have a show coming up. So yeah, so it's just awesome. The number of people that I've been able to meet and the stories that we've been able to put out there for other people to hear.
Probably all the friendships you've gained out of all of this as well.
Yeah. There's been people that have been there's a couple people that have been repeat guests because they've had amazing stories and then they've done something new. And I'm like, well, come back on the show. We got to promote that. And so exactly. It's amazing. Yeah.
What about you, Catherine? Do you have anything to share on that one?
Yeah, I think creating that community, where people are really invested in the fact that it's not just about us, right? It's about the community and how can we better foster people coming together. Another piece of my kind of pet project around this, something that I'm passionate about, is the Western medicine working together with alternative medicines.
Yes.
And alternative therapies and modalities. When Jeff had those, we mentioned earlier about Jeff having almost a year of migraines. We went back to the medical community and said, he's got migraines nonstop.
Help me.
What can we do? And the neurosurgeon said, well, I guess you're just going to have to live with headaches.
That was his response.
I was like,
which I took better than she did.
He did. He was very gracious. I was gracious to his face.
Should have heard her when she got in the car, though. She was not happy.
What?
Are you
How is that
freaking kidding me?
I can absolutely picture it right now. I think like any wife, I can picture exactly what you would be saying right now.
Fit to be tied. I'm just saying.
I was not okay with that answer.
No.
Just to say it lightly. We really made it a goal of, what other, what other opportunities or possibilities or modalities are available that could help with constant migraines. We did, we found a chiropractic neurologist that really made a difference and that helped. We also found something called neurofeedback. There's a couple different types of neurofeedback. This one in particular was what's called low emission neurofeedback. But it got rid of the migraines in a month. About a month. I think it was, yeah.
It was about a month. Got them completely got rid of them. It was amazing.
So, I get it. The neurosurgeon has a very limited scope of practice, but I think what drives me the most crazy is when the medical community will not or cannot or for whatever reason doesn't share about other possibilities. I know there's a whole lot of politics around that and there's a whole lot of legalities and all this stuff. But I still come back to the fact that Western medicine should be working together with alternative. Somehow that has to shift in our country.
So you weren't at the appointment that I was at, and if you were, you probably would have had a similar response with my current neurosurgeon, which I love, by the way. He's amazing. I'm not trying to throw him under the bus or anything, but with this last appointment that I just had, I told him he saw me right after surgery, and I was a mess. After this last surgery, I came away with some pretty serious side effects. And since then, we've been able to alleviate probably 90% of it, 90% of the time, through some alternative modalities again. And he saw me this time and said, good Lord, man, what happened? What did you do? Because it was noticeable. I mean, it was really noticeable. And I told him, and he goes, yeah, I could see how that could work. I was like, what? Where were you a year ago?
Why didn't you tell me?
Why wouldn't you say something? But again, he's a neurosurgeon. He operates on people's brains and spines and fixes things. And he's not interested, nor can he recommend anything outside of that because of probably a variety of reasons, but it's still frustrating. So yes, we are working on it. We are working with a couple of organizations in particular that we absolutely love, that maybe we can talk about later, that are trying to combine those two industries, and help them work together. So.
Yeah. So to your original question of rewarding, I think it's discovering that in myself and starting to find other people and organizations that feel the same way. That's been hugely beneficial.
Yeah. And honestly, to go along with what you were talking about, I wish that they would all be willing to work together. So I know that a neurosurgeon, they want to cut. That is what their entire job is all about. They are a specialist designed to go into the brain. They want to cut. So they obviously are not meant to go and learn the other things and do the other things. But I still believe that all the physicians, all the specialists should be able to work together and talk together to see what they can do as a treatment care plan to make you feel the very best that you can and to help you as much as they possibly can. But not all of them feel that way or want to try.
In fact, I was just speaking at a conference last week that was, this organization is specifically designed for that, because the founder of that nonprofit was so frustrated with the fact that they're not working together. And so that is the design of her entire organization. And so, yeah, they're out there. They're out there. They're starting slowly but surely. We're seeing stuff like that crop up, but not nearly enough, not nearly often enough. Yeah. So, yeah, anybody that's out there doing that, kudos, and keep up the good work and spread the freaking word, because we need more of you.
Absolutely. I almost feel like there needs to be like an online phone book of some sort where we share all of this helpful information with each other so that we can get it. And so that we can also pass that on to someone else that needs the help.
100%.
This is how it should be.
Well, that's what ICU is designed for. See, that's the thing. That's what Invisible Condition University is for sharing those resources and sharing all the stuff that we've learned and that we've gleaned from all these other amazing professionals and people that we've met and had on the show and had Zoom calls with and all the things. I mean, some of the most successful people know they don't know anything, and they know this much about this much, and they surround themselves with people that know everything else. That's what I'm doing. That's what we're doing with ICU. We know a little bit. We have so many other resources that know the rest. So we want to share that. And so it's a small step, but it's something we can do. So.
It's something that can help other people, and that's great.
Right. Exactly.
So my next question for you would be, how do you balance family time with all the work that you guys are doing?
Well,
carefully.
So yes, good answer. One person that we've worked with for a while now has a philosophy that I really like, that it took us a minute to figure it out and to absorb it and to embrace it. But he just says, you know what? It's one life. You have one life. It's one life. It's not, here's my family life and here's my Google Calendar might look like that when here's the kids' practice and here's the cheer practice and all the things, and here's the Zoom calls and we're going to be on this show and whatever. It looks separated on the calendar, but really it's all one life. When you go somewhere, when you're traveling, when you're with the family, when you're not with the family, it's all together. You shouldn't separate it, because it is really just all one life. And so you just kind of plug the things in for that certain day that you need to and live life, Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, like you said, sometimes people will use the word balance, right? Like a work-life balance. And, to Jeff's point, it's not necessarily about balance as much as it is, what is the highest and best use of my time right now? That's the phrase that I kind of like to ask myself is, what is the highest and best use of my time right now? And is it, spending time with my children? Is it, we have our kiddos now. We have our oldest just recently turned 21, and we also have two teenagers that are in high school. And so sometimes the highest and best use of my time is talking to my teenagers,
hanging out with the teenagers and laying on the couch with them, and
make sure they know that we're still here for them and we still love them. But and so sometimes that's it. And then sometimes it is, like, for example, maybe right now, somebody else is picking up the teenagers from high school, and so that we can, join this amazing podcast, And so it really is, like, what is it for right now? What do I need to be doing right now? And answering that with, whether it's family or kids or making dinner or eating dinner together or taking a nap. And there's been plenty of times where we have eaten with the kids, again, fortunately our kiddos are teenagers, so it doesn't mess up their sleep schedule too much, but we'll have dinner with them, like at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. I know that's not fabulous, but that's when we're all in the kitchen. That's when we're all together. And so
roll with it.
Yeah, just take those moments, kind of no matter what time of day it is.
Yep.
And really we try and do as much of our business stuff while they're at school as we can. So,
well, like, speaking of business stuff, we're taking them with us. We're taking 2 of them with us for the next business trip we're taking. We're going to Orlando in about a month, and we're taking our oldest and our oldest daughter and our son with us this time. And we took the son and the youngest daughter last time. I mean, immerse them in it, man. They're going to learn something too. They got to see what we're doing, and that's the best way to do it. So this time, that's still one life, bring them along. Why not? So
absolutely. I think having them learn what you're living and what you're doing is going to help them in the long run too. Exposing them to all of this can only make them better people.
Exactly.
Right.
That's what we're hoping.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for other families navigating chronic conditions?
Man,
there's probably a lot.
There's a little. Yeah. What's your top thing?
Right.
What would you tell them if you had somebody in front of you right now? What would you tell them first?
I think coming back a little bit to the discussion about Western medicine plus alternative therapies is so your Western medicine doctor might tell you something that they really believe is true. For example, your condition is incurable. You're going to live with your condition forever.
You're just going to have to deal with headaches.
Or you're just going to have to live with headaches. And when they tell you that, they might really believe that's true. But I would really encourage you to, if you really feel like that is not okay, you're not okay with that answer, or it doesn't really feel like it's in alignment with what you want in your life, I would really encourage you to advocate and seek out other opportunity, other modalities, other therapies, other communities that might know about therapies and modalities that you've not tried or experienced or considered. Because there are options. There really are a ton of options. And so it's not just about one Western medicine course of action. There's lots of different ways to go about taking care of something.
Well, and by the way, I feel like this is stating the obvious, but a lot of people have forgotten this in the medical world specifically. When you go to any other industry, people shop around, people get second opinions, people fire this guy and hire this one instead. You can do that with your doctor too. If you don't like what he's telling you or what she's telling you, fire him. Go somewhere else. And you don't have to say you're fired unless you really want to. It might feel good. But really, I mean, if you don't like what they're telling you, find somebody else that will listen, because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of doctors out there that you can go to, and it is okay, encouraged even if you're not sure about what they're telling you. I mean, with the example of migraines, I'm not going to listen to that. I'm sorry, you're just going to have to live with headaches.
No.
Thank you. Don't let the doorknob leave a lasting impression. I am out of here. We're going to go find something else. So that's my biggest thing is, please just be your
There it is.
Who knew that was a tongue twister? Be your own best advocate, for crying out loud. It's your life. You know better than anybody else how you feel and what you can handle. And so don't let them push you around. They are just a human being just like you. They just have more zeros behind their name on the paycheck, okay? Their time might be worth more in that scenario, but they're people just like you are. You can move on. Yep.
Yeah, and we do not have to accept their answer. Ever.
Oh, they have a form specifically for that. It's called an AMA form, against medical advice. You think they just came up with that yesterday. They came up with that because they know people were going to push back. They knew people weren't going to agree with everything they say, and they wanted to cover their butt. So I'm not trying to throw the medical profession under the bus. I wouldn't be here without it. I love the neurosurgeons and the anesthesiologists of the world, but they're not always right. Just going to say it. They're not always right.
No, they're not. And there are ones that are right out there, and it's okay to go and find them.
Thankfully, I've had a lot of them in my life that have been 100% spot on, and I'm still here to tell the story because of it. But sometimes you got to challenge them. So
exactly.
Okay.
My last question for you two today is, how can listeners get involved, and of course people watching, get involved with Hydro with Hope or learn more about your initiatives?
Yeah.
So you can go to hydrowithhope.com, and there is a donate now button right there staring you in the face when you get to the homepage. So it's no secret. We are a 501c3, and any donation will be tax deductible, all the things. So I encourage you to do that. That'll just help us to get more places to spread the word about my story, our story, and get those journals into the hands of the people that need them. And so that's Hydro with Hope for the TV show. I mean, if you want to be in touch about that, invisible condition at e360tv.com is my email. Reach out and let's chat. If you know somebody that would be an amazing guest, or if you know somebody that might want to get the word out about what they're doing with their business through advertising on the show, there's commercials on the show. It's a TV show. So, and we've got a pretty big audience, so it'd be worth your money to do it, I think. So reach out for that. And then for the community, Invisible Condition University, if you go to myfreegiftfromjeff.com, that is a website we've got set up to join the community. And if you go to that particular page, myfreegiftfromjeff.com, you'll get the first 30 days for free. It's really inexpensive to be a part of the community. It's only $17 a month. But we want to give you the first month for free to check it out. You can come to a couple of meetings, see what we're all about. I know you'll love it, and we'll see you for many, many more calls. But try it out for free. That's all the places. There you go, everybody.
That's wonderful. It's been such a pleasure to have the two of you on, and I need to bring you back and have you expand on some more things, or, share the next few things that are coming out.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Thank you again, my Spoonie sisters. Until next time, don't forget your spoon. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. The information should not be taken as a replacement for medical, clinical, professional advice, diagnoses, or medical intervention. My Spoonie sisters and guests will not be held liable for any of the consequences of such action or inaction. Trigger warning. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics including, but not limited to, suicide, abuse, mental illness, and chronic disease. You are advised to refrain from listening if you are likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. None of the guests or hosts will be responsible for your use of the information contained therein. Life is not merely to be alive, but to be well. Living a life with a chronic illness is best described with one word: unpredictable. Be Well's products are designed to make the unpredictable easier to deal with. Back when I was getting my infusions, I would have loved to have their adult zip hoodie. They even have one in pink. They also have everything from one-day pill holders to urgency buckets. So remember, they want to make your life a little easier. So be sure to check out Be Well.